please allow me to pray for you. Dear wise and loving God, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you for our freedom. Thank you for loving us from your boundless and gracious nature. Governing authorities were established to promote peace, order, and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives, and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Lindsborg as we this week celebrate a heritage which brings so much richness and enjoyment. It is in your most blessed name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Public input? Just you. That's you.
I'm glad I got back to work. I'm sitting over here. I'm supposed to stand.
Before you start, let's identify who you are.
I'm Earl Larson.
Okay, great.
I'm a citizen of Lindsborg. But I'm on behalf of, well, it's not a committee, it's set the lighting of the trees on Main Street for Christmas. We want to make a more serious effort at it this time. Well, that would be me and whoever else I can round up to help. I'm asking the city to help, is what I'm here for. Particularly, I'd like to use the bucket truck because we want to do the trees and we want to do them all, big and small. And we like to have it look like there's some intentionality to how we want to do this. So it can't be done all by ladders and just throwing lights into the tree. So that's what I'm requesting is if I can get some help and some use of the bucket truck.
Okay. Or what I'll do is refer that to staff and we'll make sure we get back to you as soon as possible and you're making plans.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be doing this early in November, I think, or November, November, yeah, these trees.
Okay.
Okay?
And you have the lights, you have everything else you just need to do.
Yeah, well, the lights we'll take care of. It would just be the assistance of some of the folks that the city can help us get the lights into some trees. Small ones we do, the bigger ones we're ready to help.
Okay.
All right?
Do we have any responsibility on design after the fact of what it looks like at the end? There will be no blame to the city or anything?
Well, it'll probably be my fault.
All right, I'm just.
What's the best contact number for you?
Phone number is 785-227-7046.
The other question, what about like a scissor lift?
Scissor lift may also work.
You know, I'm thinking that might be a little bit less obtrusive to.
But if you're going to get up around and maneuver around the top of the tree, and I think that's part of the work we'd be trying to achieve, some wrapping effect around the tree, I would think the bucket truck would be the ideal thing.
We'll have city staff address that and get back to you as soon as possible.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you for coming in.
I appreciate it.
Is there other members of the public who wish to speak, address council? Okay. Amendments to the agenda. Council members? Any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, We'll move to the mayor's report. It's a big week in Lindsborg with the 70th anniversary of Sven's Buildings Fest. Look forward to 75th. Well, I just lost 5 years. Look forward to seeing all council members in their costumes this week. Right?
You hoping?
You know, that's why people come. They don't come to see me and my regular duties. So please dress up if you can. Dress up if you got to. That's the best way to say it. So the Swedish ambassador will also be joining us and bringing greetings and that. I think that's great and very special to have him in town, and appreciate Bill and Carol for their work with getting around the committee and Greg and everybody that's made that possible. I think that's very special for us to achieve that on our 75th anniversary of Sven's Buildings Fest and that. So please join in the festivities. Greet our visitors as they come and bring that small town charm that we always put out there and talk about. So look forward to it. We also had a business 20th anniversary. Becky at the Swedish Country Inn yesterday. Congratulations on that. And I look forward to coming in and seeing the piece and what's been done there. So
Looks great.
lots of good things happening downtown, different businesses and that, and really appreciate the efforts that everybody's doing and the excitement that I see. That's why I think this could be a great year for Buildings Fest. The weather's going to be great. Guaranteeing that as mayor. Let's keep it. Last thing is just keep in mind recycling available down at the recycling area in the blue carts, and it's great to see those out on a regular basis. I haven't talked to John lately, but I want to get a tonnage report and what we diverted and all that. I think that's great for our community in the future. So, moving on to October meetings, one I want to highlight for sure is the joint meeting on the 22nd with the school board, 6:30 at the Sunstrom building. The other one we can address here is P&Z meeting on the 20th at 7 o'clock, and that will also be at the Sunstrom building. Consent agenda, what is your desire?
Move we approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second to approve the consent agenda. Roll call.
I'm getting there. Becky? Yes. Emil?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Blaine?
Yes.
Kelly? Yes.
Moved and approved. Move on to P&Z. We already talked about the joint meeting coming up. Old business, ordinance 4939, permitted parking 500 North 2nd Street. This was tabled at the last meeting.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 4939.
Mr. Mayor, I think first you need to take it
Off the table. Your motion.
Yeah, that's what I motioned.
Rick's motion is to take it off the table, bring it back to council. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor of bringing it back to council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed. We're off the table and back here.
For the sake of
Go ahead.
conversation, then, I will make a motion to adopt ordinance 4939.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Now we can have discussion. Reference 4939 and your desire to adopt as is or to make any changes.
Well, with the mayor's permission, I guess I'd like to get some more input from folks that brought it to us in the first place, and also from Bethany College. I mean, we kind of asked them to look at this and kind of reevaluate it and kind of see where we are with them as well.
We'll start with anything new from you.
Like me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I didn't attend the meeting at Bethany College.
You come up to the mic so you can get it on.
Yeah,
Why don't you come up to the mic, please, so we can get it on TV and I can hear the discussion. So,
All the third graders My name is Elizabeth Spencer, and I'm a resident at 500 Walking on 2nd. I went to the meeting with Bethany. It was a good meeting. Is this what I'm supposed to talk about? Yeah. And it was a good meeting. They proposed to, work with their students and their faculty to make sure that they didn't park on the west side. to keep them in their, on the east side of the street in their parking lots. They would do that with mornings the first couple weeks, or I think the first week of each semester, which would be in August, January, and then February, the second semester. And then after the first week, they would go to fines for them, which would be a $50 fine. They wanted 2 days before the signs came down, so they could email the students and then hand out flyers and then talk to them, have the RAs talk to them one-on-one. So, which, kind of made me feel better that I wasn't just an email, because I don't think students necessarily read their emails anymore. We shared our concerns with the fact that, they're still not going to be able to have, it's going to be open parking, so people can still park there. So, which is, everybody, it's a problem, so that's okay. But if the students, they have their hanging tags, it's really easy to take the hanging tag off, and then nobody knows that it's a college student that's parked there. But Dane and Matt were hoping that this would push Bethany College to get the parking stickers instead of the hanging tags, because I think they wanted that for a long time. But Bethany's always tried to get out of doing that, so they're hoping that this will push them to use the stickers so that they can identify the college students and the faculty. And then the kids just can't take the hanging tag off and park there. So, we're okay with trying it. My concern is that if this does not work, if the students are like, I am not going to walk, from that parking lot, when I can park right there, it's open public parking, I have just as much right to park there as anybody else, that it'll still be full of college students and we still won't have any parking. So is there a way that we could figure out the proposal that we brought to you guys about the residents, paying for parking, so that if we came back and said, hey, this isn't working with Bethany, we just want to move into paying, that it's not, okay, well, we'll do it this time, and there's a problem with it, so now we have to table it, and we'll come back in 2 weeks, and then, well, this is a problem, so now we have to come back in 2 weeks, and then it's 3 months later, and we're still parking in our alleys. And it just concerned me because as it's getting towards winter and driving out through the snow, it's not a whole lot of fun. So,
Okay. Questions?
I didn't get from this whether you think their proposal is acceptable.
yeah, I think I don't mind trying it. Do I really want to pay $50 to park on my street? No, not really. But it works. If the thing at Bethany doesn't work, I want to work with them just as much as I think they want to work with us. They were very willing. If we had any concerns, they're going to give us the telephone number of security so we can call them and say, hey, there's somebody out here, can you come check it out? That was 24/7. So yeah, I guess I'm willing to try it. And they said if it wasn't working, we could come back and to them and see if we could get. They said that they had a few other ideas. They didn't mention what those other ideas were.
Are you thinking like a 60-day trial and see how it goes?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Some sort of timeline to say, all right, let's evaluate what's going on, so we're all on the same page of reevaluation.
Yeah, and we didn't, come up with the time. I didn't really think about it, but I just want to make sure that it's not like 6 months later and everyone's like, oh no, let's just keep trying.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned you're parking in your alleyway right now.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed, I drove through there just because I was kind of curious that a lot of the neighbors on the other side of the street have garages and buildings and so on that alleyway. Would it be possible for people to put garages and stuff on the houses on the east side of the alleyway, or are the lots too small on a couple of those? Because I noticed that a couple of the lots are pretty narrow.
50 foot.
Is that what's going on there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can't get a garage we have a garage like back in our backyard by the alley, but we couldn't get one next to our house, or we can't even get a driveway without our cars taking up our whole house.
So are you the second house from the north or the third?
We're the, fourth.
Okay, so yours is even bigger than the one to north of you then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're smaller than yours. Okay.
Mr. Carlson, do you have anything to add from the college side that hasn't been talked about already?
Well, I'll support. I'll give you support. I think she just gave an excellent rendition of the meeting and the feelings of both parties, so I think that's very good. And I think we have no problem that if it doesn't work, that we go to permitted parking along that strip there. I think that is the big issue. The big issue for us is we keep our parking on down the street. That's the main concern, the south part, past the north. And then I think also, we've offered the diagonal parking at any time. There won't be any tickets written to any residents that park over there at any time during the year. That's always open, so.
Well, doesn't that create an issue though? You're talking about keeping the south end on the east side with parking. And then you're gonna have your diagonal parking on the north end of the block. And then they're going to permit parking on the west side of that street too.
Well, it won't be permanent parking, they're asking for the no parking signs to come down on part of the block.
Where's their permit parking gonna be?
That's what they're saying, this is a plan two that would be without, don't enact ordinance 4939, but let the parking signs come down on the north end, on the west side, and let Bethany trying to control the space through their security guards and that on a 60-day evaluation.
So we have more than one thing going on here, because if we are gonna make permit parking, then we need to deal with the no parking signs on the west side of the street also. We want to put them back up, we go down.
I think here's the way I would describe it. Right now, the ordinance 4939 is to put in permitted parking in that area. If you approve that, that's what's going to happen. This alternative plan was to take down the no parking signs up to the point of where the angled parking starts, somewhere in there that makes a good transition with Tim. From a safety point of view, take those down on the west side north, and then leave that open with the college patrolling that and making sure those spots stay open with the homeowner's ability to call and get cars moved and anything like that. So with the key to that, with Mr. Carlson saying that on the east side, south end, they want to keep parking there. And Tim, do you have any response to that, or are you okay with that as long as we get it in the correct areas? Is that a good rendition, Greg, of what you?
That's my understanding, yes.
So your question may be that you don't enact 4939, just open it out.
But no.
Tim, I just put an opinion on the east side, are we okay when we do that as long as the transition point makes sense?
So the area for the parking on the north end to where the stall parking, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Does all of council understand what we're talking about now? What's on the table is 4939 permitted. What the second option is that appears to be gaining strength is to take down the no parking signs and let that play its course for up to 60 days between homeowners and the college working as partners in that to make sure that things go well from both sides and do that. And then we need to come back and address it, come back in a timely manner, keeping 4939 around, and we don't have to go back and forth or anything. I think it's pretty clean to where it is today. If we need to pull it out, we can do that and enact it fairly quick, if that's what it takes, other than to get signs put in and some other things that
Well, I feel pretty comfortable voting against this ordinance,
Okay.
simply because the two parties involved have taken the time to work it out. They had a meeting, they're in agreement, the chief of police is in agreement, so at this point, anyway, I feel pretty comfortable with that.
If we just don't take a vote, it'll just,
Well,
vote no.
just, don't know, I mean, we've got a motion and a second, correct?
Well, my suggestion, given that this may want to be imposed or adopted if the trial period doesn't work, is simply put it back on the table again until such time as it might be necessary, then bring it off and vote it.
Okay. One more, yes.
Well, this was to get rid of all parking on the east side of the street, right? And put all permits all the way down. This ordinance that's out.
Yeah, that's my
So,
understanding.
If you leave it, then it goes back to the original problem.
They don't have any parking on the east side of the street.
Well, could I suggest a suggestion, if I may so humbly, that if this, all we're gonna do is take down the no parking signs on that go the length of the dorm to that house where there's no driveway, up to the one that does have a driveway, basically. That if that doesn't work, we can put permitted parking in that stretch and not change anything.
Not for the whole block.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
That was my understanding too.
But I think the original ordinance, so had it the whole block.
Yeah.
And then closing on the other side,
Right.
which we don't want to.
I got a quick question. What about the sticker thing? Having stickers for student cars?
Yeah, we're trying to move back to stickers. We had stickers for years, and we're trying to move back to that now. Because the other system doesn't work very well.
No.
Do you see that happening? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's a great.
It kind of high. I mean, obviously, it hasn't been committed by anybody, but if things were to go smoothly, how long do you think it'd take to implement policy like that for you guys?
The stickers
Yeah.
could happen as soon as we have the budgetary funds to do it. So that's why it's hard. Right now, at college, it's a hard answer. But I mean, we're ready to do it tomorrow, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Just so I think we're all in agreement, we understand where we're going from a date, timing point of view. Tim, recommendation on when you're giving the college 2 or 3 days at least,
Say right after Hillings Fest.
Monday? Signs come down on Monday, if that's the direction the council wishes to go. You'll hear that shortly.
I would rather say Tuesday, because from our perspective, we're still gonna be dealing with, cleaning up the Hillings Fest. So, Tim Dunn, would Tuesday be better? You know,
Or Wednesday?
or Wednesday, I mean, you know the schedule of what it takes to clean up.
Well, it takes a week to set it up, and it takes at least 2 days to take it down.
So Wednesday, a week from Wednesday would be the 14th.
All right, so the date you're dealing with is the 14th for the signs to come down in that direction. We still vote on the table today is ordinance 4939, which is the permitted parking. Any further discussion on 4939?
Do we need to table it?
Well, do you need to change? Maybe motion to make a change?
I think there's enough problems with 4939, you better just take it down and then come back with
You
one
can,
that makes
you can
sense.
do it that way. If the only concern is that it goes halfway down the block, then you take it off the table, you do an amendment to the written ordinance to say from Normal Street south, 150 feet or whatever distance it is in determines.
Bill, you tell us what's the easiest for you.
Easiest would be to table.
Table, all right. What's your desire, council?
All right, I'll make a motion to table ordinance 4939.
Second?
It's been moved and second. Need to ask, discussion? All those in favor of tabling 4939, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Bill, do you want a motion of any kind to take those 2 signs down by the 14th?
No, I don't think you need that. I think that's up to the chief. He can do that.
All parties understand the direction we're going? Chief?
I do think before 4939 would be taken off the table and considered again, I think, Tim, we do need to have an actual distance that it would come to the south.
Okay.
That would be a very simple amendment.
We're all hopeful that we don't bring 4939 back. It's a little long in the tooth already today, so if it has to come back, it would be. So. All right. Any other questions about old business 4939 or the direction we're going to go? Do business. Item A is chickens. Who's addressing this?
But, the last council meeting, a request was made to change the ordinance regarding chickens within the city. The current ordinance allows chickens or fowl, as it's in the code, within not closer than 200 feet of a residence. The request received was made, or to change it so that it would allow, it would be less restrictive, I guess is the best way to put it from a allowance standpoint. Included in your packet were Hutchinson's, Lawrence, and Salina's code regarding fowl, because chicken comes under the definition of fowl for almost every code out there.
Okay? Please.
My name's Stephanie Wessel. Last time I was at OMS, so this time I typed my speech so that I'm on topic. But before I start my speech, I did want to point out, in the past 2 weeks, we actually had a resident of Lindsborg that had a problem with this ordinance, and he is here, and he would actually like to address the council as well regarding his specific situation. He contacted me when he found out that I was working on this, and just wants to let his voice be known to you guys. So that being said, I'm going to read out the sheet of paper. 2 weeks ago, I brought a request to the city council regarding live chickens within the city limits. Since then, I have done a couple little things to bring information here to you guys for you guys to ponder. The first is an unscientific Facebook poll. Y'all know Facebook's really not scientific, not extremely reliable, but I did it as a means to gauge the public's opinion on it, and also to see what the concerns were out there. Of that unscientific Facebook poll on Lindsborg now, the understanding, to be able to understand those, 23 people responded. Of those, 17 were agreeable to chickens being allowed in the city ordinance. If it was allowed, they wanted to be able to have chickens as well. 6 were opposed. As you can see, the majority of the participants in this poll want the ordinance amended. Some of the concerns that were outlined by the people who were opposed to it is an increase in the number of foxes. Well, we have a lot of foxes regardless. I'm not really concerned about the numbers increasing. Chickens owners would be responsible to design their coop in a manner that is safe for their chickens. There are ways to predator-proof your coops. Now, is that infallible? Absolutely not. But there are ways that they can address that. I would argue at this point that we have more of a concern with feral cats than we have with foxes. And I would argue that those would be some of your biggest issues with chickens, which once again goes back to the predator-proofing your coops. For me personally, I have a wooden privacy fence, and my chickens would also be kept in a coop inside of my wooden privacy fence. So I don't really have that concern, but not everybody has that, so I wanted to address that. Concerns over noise. In my proposal, I said no roosters. You're talking about 4 to 6 hens, you're really not going to get any noise. One barking dog makes more noise than the chickens are going to make. Concerns over sanitation. I looked this up. The Fisheries and Aquatics Department cites that 40 grams of excrement are produced per chicken per day. So you're looking at about 4 pounds per week if you have 6 chickens. Most people put this in the compost bins. For our family personally, we have a garden. It would go in our compost bins. For those that bag it, throw it away, you're not looking at anything different than somebody scooping their cat litter box for a week. The last statement that somebody brought up wasn't as much of a concern. They're not as concerned about the responsible chicken owners, they're concerned about the irresponsible chicken owners. And my response to this is, do we ban alcohol because a couple bad people, or not bad people, sorry, in my field we don't call them bad people, bad decision makers. They make poor decisions and get in their car and drink and drive. No. We don't punish the masses for the bad decisions of the few. Same thing with chickens. Are you potentially going to have problems? I'm not going to say no. You may have 1 or 2, but the majority of people are going to abide by this. The people you're going to have problems with are the people who don't get the permits, and those are the people who are going to do whatever they want anyways, frankly. So, now that I've addressed those concerns, I want to, with the help of Bruce, who did a lot of my research legwork, which I'm really thankful for. These are the cities in Kansas that he kind of looked at. McPherson allows hens, no roosters. City of Wyndham allows up to 10 egg-laying chickens, and in their entire city, they have 1 family that has chickens. City of Wichita also allows chickens. Their animal control states that it is extremely rare for them to have a chicken issue. In a population of 350,000, they have 129 active permits. So it's not like chickens are going to be running wild in the city. You're talking, if you're looking on average at some of these cities, you're talking about less than even 5% of their population. But if we bump that up to 10% of the population, Lindsborg's approximately, I looked at a 2013 census and it was like 37,000 roughly. You're looking at 37 homes having chickens. If you're looking at, a high number of 10%. Some other cities that he looked at, Mountain Ridge allows chickens and doesn't report any issues. In a city of 1,737, they have 3 families that have permits. El Dorado has permits issued for up to 6 chickens, and they started about 2 years ago. They've issued 7 permits to a population of 12,000, report no problems with permit holders. City of Hutchinson allows chickens as well. My director in my office personally owns 4 chickens, reports they are not an issue at all. He said he's never had them get loose. He trims their wings to make sure they can't fly. Kansas City allows chickens. To kind of go back a little bit, the animal control individual in Wichita encouraged all of you, if you wanted to call and talk to him about any concerns, I have his phone number. You are welcome to have it, and he really encouraged you to call if you have questions. So, as you can see, a lot of cities are allowing chickens. It's kind of becoming, we're kind of going back to our agricultural roots. Kind of going back to a little more old school. I'm not against it. I'm okay with that. So, with the rising cost of food and the more it's costing to sustain your family, both cities, large and small, have made backyard chickens work. We're not talking about large-scale chicken farms which produce 200 pounds of chicken feces a week. We're not talking about that. You're not associating the smell, the disease, the birds, the noise, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about 6. They're really not going to be a major nuisance. I know this is not the first time this has been brought up to City Council, and I encourage you to see that many other cities in Kansas are able to do this and without issue, and that they are not dealing with just a few people that want this. You're dealing with the majority of people that are starting to want this, that are starting to want to go to a more self-sufficient route. So that being said, I want to make sure I cover my bases that are in the pun. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers in the city. I am trying to do what's best for my family and trying to teach my kids good values, and that's why I'm supportive. So I appreciate you guys' time. And I'm open to any questions. If not, like I said, Bruce would like to talk about his personal experience with this ordinance.
Thank you. I just, one second. Is there a magic number of 4 or 6? How did you come up with that number? Could it be
Basically,
2? Or could it be...
if I remember right from the research that I kind of looked at, you're looking at 18 to 22 square feet or less. I would need to look it up again. It would be feasible for a residential yard to hold approximately 6 to 10. Most of the ordinances are allowing 6 to 10. And so that's kind of where that number generated. Basically what I'm asking is 6. I don't want to see chickens running around any more than anybody else does. I want
the square footage for each fowl.
Yes,
So
and that's probably the other thing that I think would need to be addressed too. When we're addressing fowl, I think this needs to be specific chicken. We're not wanting ducks, which are probably a little bit noisier, or turkeys, or stuff like that. We're wanting specifically egg-laying hens. No roosters, no mass commercial chicken farms, stuff like that.
Golden eagles.
You know what? I'd be for it. If you vote for it.
Other questions before she? Bruce?
Good evening. Here, Bruce and Ian Buchanan. In a way, our situation's not related to Stephanie's. It's just a coincidence of timing. I get nervous when I speak, I forget to breathe, so I stop talking and try to move. We used to live here a long, long time ago. We've been absent for 24 years, so we continue to pay property taxes on the 6 months. We returned to Lindsborg a week ago last night, Sunday evening. I'm going to read a letter. Hello, we are Bruce and Jen Buchanan. In 2012, I checked with the City Code Department of the City of Corpus Christi, Texas, to ask them about chickens. They said we could have them. I was told that if we only had egg-laying hens and no roosters, we could keep these chickens in our backyard. We had to keep them 35 feet away from the neighbor's house. And there were a couple of other stipulations that were easy to live with. I got a copy of the rules and purchased baby hens 4 days old. My wife, who suffers from brain injury and frequent depressions, put these little babies into a large box in our living room and cared for them as they grew into beautiful chickens. These chickens became rather attached to Jan, and they think that she is their mother. When the hens became old enough to be backyard chickens, we put them into our prepared backyard. They moved right into the yard like they knew it was theirs. For a while, I was afraid they would escape, checking on them frequently. They were always in the yard looking for bugs. It seems that hens had no reason to want to try and leave like our dog did. We had a 4-foot-tall fence, and our big dog Bear liked to get out and run until the neighbors would call me, and I would have to chase him down. Later, we got rid of Bear for this reason. In the 3 years our chickens have been in our backyard, they have never left us. They have no interest in leaving. They stay home to guard the nest area, I think. When the girls were 6 months old, they began to lay beautiful eggs. Now, as well as the enjoyment we were getting, we were also getting valuable eggs. We started to realize what the term backyard chickens means. It doesn't mean just some chickens. It means a small amount of beautiful hens that stay in the yard and give you eggs. Unlike the normal concept of chickens, hens kept in this way cause no eyesore and don't create any noise this year. They're extremely clean. Hens don't get aggressive. I don't have to worry about them biting the post. Backyard chickens are egg-laying hens, never any roosters. Backyard chickens are kept in small numbers, so it is easy to be a responsible caretaker. Backyard chickens are kept in the backyard and away from the neighbors by being contained in a yard by a fence or a movable chicken pen. An ugly chicken house is not part of this picture. The chickens go into a roosting box to sleep and out in the yard during the day, so the droppings are widely scattered into the yard. It's good for the yard. There's nothing to offend the senses of any neighbors. No noise, no smell, no eyesore, and none of the concerns you could imagine with the keeping of a pet dog in the yard. We have owned our house here in Lindsborg for about 20 years now, and remember living here. Our 5 memories are that of a small rural town like Baker. The town that is easy and has a live type of personality. For about a year now, my wife and I have been dreaming of returning back to Lindsborg. Jan dreams of a garden and her 2 chickens in our backyard up there in Lindsborg. So I retired from my job and prepared to come back home. For those who have read Of Mice and Men, you can remember how George would calm Lenny down by telling him about the rabbit farm. Lenny dreamed about a rabbit farm and petting rabbits. Lenny was slow, and George would tell Lenny about the rabbits so Lenny would feel calm in that. Well, Jan's tell me about the rabbits is, tell me about the garden and chickens, please. So I tell her about her chickens going home to Lindsborg with her. Jan smiles and gets calm again. Last weekend, we drove 900 miles out of Texas to return home to Lindsborg. She asked me over and over about her 2 chickens that were caged in the back of our truck. I had to remind Jan over and over that we were really on our way home and that the chickens are in the back of our truck. Jan has a great difficulty cementing the memories into place and has to ask many times the same question before she becomes secure with the thought. We arrived Sunday evening and prepared to spend our first night back home. At 10:45 the next morning, Jan got her 2 hens out of the truck and put their cage on the ground inside the backyard of our house. And at 11:30, the police department appeared in our backyard and told us we didn't need to get rid of her chickens. We came here feeling welcome, and suddenly we don't feel that way. We are in shock that Lindsborg feels this type of activity is not acceptable. We hope that Lindsborg will find the tolerance and make a decision to allow this type of wonderful hobby to take place here. Thanks, Bruce and Jan. That's it. I think we can understand how we are. We have experience with this hobby. If anybody has any questions, then as Stephanie said, I've done some research and talked to some qualified.
Still, basically, you're in agreement with her.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I misunderstood. I thought you said you had an opposing view.
I'm not sure where that came from, sir.
Oh,
We were shocked to
I
find
thought the
that.
same thing, so I thought.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll have a discussion and appreciate coming forward.
In case anybody's interested, one problem is we're not a chicken farm. These are just some pictures. This is what Stephanie is asking for, what Dan and I are asking. So, all right, this is how it looks.
Okay.
I read all of these proposals from the different towns and so on, and I think, although I have no desire to have any chickens, I think that the ordinance for Lindsborg is too restrictive. And I would be much more willing to go with one of the ordinances that perhaps limited them to an inhabited building to maybe 50 feet. That still protects, especially neighbors, I think. But personally, I don't see anything wrong with having some chickens as long as we're doing the things you say and have something like these that are keep the foxes and so on out.
Betty?
I too am an advocate for urban chicken farming. It's becoming more and more popular over the last several years. You can go to the Home and Garden Show and you can see little contained coops that you can wheel around and move around. I know for a fact there are several people in town that are keeping chickens, again, that don't meet our guidelines, which I think are much too restrictive. I read with interest a couple of very large cities, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Madison, Wisconsin, and read their ordinances, and they've made it very, very simple when it comes to notifying neighbors. It's an email notification where actually the city sends out an email to the neighbors. I think that if we have fears of every other household or every other residence having chickens, maybe we start by only allowing X number of permits. But I think it does need to be a specific chicken ordinance, not something that includes jaguars, giraffes, and ostriches. That's just silly. That's just silly. So I am a proponent for moving ahead. We're doing something reasonable to allow some chickens in town.
And looking through the ordinances too, it did, while the ordinance specifically began to speak just generally with, under the heading of, what was it, aves, just.
Aves.
Okay, and then the peacocks and quite a other number of things, but then it went on in the ordinance to separate pigeons out, ducks out, that sort of thing, which could easily be done in an ordinance to say chickens is what we're talking about, not, say peacocks, which I especially was alarmed by, but especially for that they
One of those said elephants too.
Exactly. So I guess what I'm saying is that it seems to specifically have an ordinance to talk about having chickens in backyards would be, especially with so many cities that seem to have done a lot of this legwork and are having success. I would also support some changes.
I think there's only one negative that's ever been really presented to me in like the situation that she's presented, you know, where it's real restrictive, it's hens, it's, you know, so you don't have the noise and everything, is that we don't really have an official animal control, it's Lindsborg PD. I think that's the only negative that we've ever had on this. And I think if we refine it enough where it's a very specific small group, I doubt it's going to cause that much of a burden. I feel like with all the assurances and everything, heck, if Wichita and everything can handle it, I think it's not going to be a big deal.
And I will say that it was either Ann Arbor or Madison that offers, they give examples of all their forms. It can all be done online, registration, permission, all that.
Is chicken enough of a definition? I mean, that's inclusive, that's chicken. That means
egg laying.
I was gonna say, even.
Egg laying.
Yes.
Female chicken, but that's all you have to say is chicken.
Well,
egg laying.
Egg laying chicken.
Egg laying, female
Egg laying
laying
hen.
chicken.
If you don't mind, this is important. Every animal control officer I spoke with last week brought up the rooster thing. This is the issue. That has to be. The rooster causes the problem in the egg laying hens.
So if you say egg laying.
Hens, egg laying hens, not chicken.
Right, not chicken, egg laying hens, and then put a specific no rooster clause in there, I guess.
Do hens say age out of being egg laying? So that they would just, well, you know.
That's when they become fried.
She's asking what happens when they stop laying eggs.
They don't. If they're kept healthy, they just continue to lay
Okay,
eggs.
all right.
I've been told up to 10 years. We haven't experienced that yet. They have a nature I'm surprised at. They hang around like cute little pets, and they're quiet, and it's all different. What do you think? Egg laying hens.
Councilman Peterson.
I guess my question is, have we heard any stories of these cities that have the ordinances allowing them to come back and say this isn't working, and they then change their ordinances back the other way? Haven't heard any negative. Is there a negative out there? Does anybody know?
The ordinances that you pulled and that are in our packet are up to date, so at least with those things.
Well, I think most of them too have some pretty nasty fines and punitive actions too. I mean, it's something where if you have a select person having a problem, you can actually do something about it.
Greg, your direction is given by this council on to go a different direction than we currently have. What does that process take for you and the rest of the staff to make that happen?
Well, it needs to be a little more defined than we would like to lay. We would like to allow egg laying hens, you know, and no roosters. I mean, you have to be, whether you want to go by distance, the samples of codes that are in there are from very broad to very defined. Sliding, you gotta put a lane on your yard every 3 months. You can get into where it becomes extremely difficult to administer, and it falls on the police department to administer and enforce this. So I would hate to have something in place. So I would have to see, whether a permit process, the number that you would want to limit it to, or whether you want to limit, or mention. I think Bruce, you said one place limited. Was it Corpus Christi that had to be 35 feet from your neighbor's residence?
Yes, it's 35 feet and 7 hens.
Okay, so some of those types of parameters that you would like to see in it, because otherwise we're coming back and forth and
Maybe we should do a study session.
I think we need to just give Greg direction.
I would think those things you just said fall in line with what.
Yeah, but you didn't put any meat on. I said this is what I need to know, but you didn't tell me any information to plug in the holes on the questions that I asked.
I'm going to call on our attorney to give us direction.
Yeah, I think as long as you put in a reasonable amount of regulation, you say 6 hens, 35 feet from another residence, appropriate shelter, describing it as being enclosed and maybe laying areas and that kind of thing. I think that's sufficient. One of the ones we had in here just said it was okay until it bothered a neighbor. I don't agree with something like that, because then you're just inviting,
A neighbor.
the conflict, yeah.
And just having a fence is not.
No, I mean, I think you need an appropriate shelter
Yeah.
for these if
Yeah.
you're going to allow it. I think if you address appropriate shelter and a limited number, and the fact that it would only be hens, there were certainly no roosters that are involved. You know, I think, and perhaps a distance from the neighbor, I think that's a place to start.
That's what I'm hearing around the room, 16 to be the number, that I would say 35 feet to 50 feet or whatever it is, 35 from a neighbor that seemed to be amenable around the room, shelter, form of permitting to make sure these things happen.
We need some kind of punitive process or something.
We'll let Greg fill with those communities.
Not allowed to be at large.
I'm sorry?
Not allowed to be at large.
Not at large. What have we missed, Bill, as the probably potential designer of this? I mean, what are the...
I really think that the things that I mentioned are enough.
Okay.
I'll take a shot at it. Or Greg can take a shot at it, and I can review what he does.
In the meantime,
We call you Birdman?
in the meantime, unless there's dissension in the ranks, I think from what we've said, we are in agreement that we'd like to change it within these guidelines. We ought to be able to tell these fine people that they could keep their hens in their backyard until we get this worked out.
That's an interesting question.
Let's call on our attorney for clarification.
You know, I ordinarily would hate to say that the council directs an ordinance not to be enforced, but I think that's certainly within the discretion of the police department. And I think under the circumstances, the police department has adequate discretion to not cite anyone under the current ordinance.
Okay? It's good.
So, with chickens, as we discussed tonight, is there anything else the council wishes to bring forward to have Bill and Greg get into our new ordinance, or code, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's a
Could be the
ordinance. Hearing none, I think the direction you heard is where we'll be, will that be done by next meeting?
We got Hellings Fest coming too, we'll see. It probably be, but I won't be here next meeting. It's perfect.
Oh, don't be a chicken.
I think I can have something before the next meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Thank you for your input. Appreciate that. Okay, move on to item B, ordinance 4944. What is your desire on 4944?
I move that we adopt ordinance 4944.
Thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Larry has approached the podium to tell us about 4944.
What we're looking at is an increase in the water rates. That last time they were increased was for bills due January 1st of 2014. The base charge is now $11.50. We're proposing it to go up to $12. The per gallon charge was $2.75 per thousand. We're looking at $3 per thousand. I looked at what the average water bill it would affect between 5,000 to 10,000 gallons. It would be between $1.25 and $2.25 per month.
Questions?
And the reason that we are wanting a rate increase is what?
The water fund needs more revenue. This will generate about $35,000 more revenue in the water fund. It's been very close to break even or even negative. So we need to generate more funds for the water.
And we haven't changed it for a couple of years.
Yes, this would be effective
It'll
2
be
years
2 year
since
difference,
prior
yeah.
adjustment.
Could you further explain why, when you say that the fund needs more revenue?
Because it's
what do we
operating in
use?
the red.
But for example, what do we use those funds to keep our water supply going, I'm assuming?
To maintain our distribution system, to upgrade it, to maintain our 2 towers, valve replacement. Our valves haven't been replaced, and which is a program we're going into. We've finished rebuilding the whole distribution system over a series of 10 years, Tim?
More, 15 to 20.
That we've done that over time. It's to pay those types of expenses.
And also, when we passed the 2016 budget, this rate increase was figured into the budget.
Yes, you're ready, go ahead.
We have, we measure our line loss in electricity, and in the past, I've heard reference to what kind of water loss we have throughout our distribution system. Is that within a measure that we'd like to see?
It didn't used to be until we replaced meters. Well, it was, and then we had a meter problem, and our line loss jumped to about 13 or 14%. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head right now. So
It's around 9% right now.
And that's an acceptable,
And the part of the reason it's around 9% was due to the fact that the tower of the country, we had problems and had to waste some water in order to allow the tower to be repaired. So I think after all these things are done, the loss will be reduced drastically.
at 9%, it's still on the lower end of industry average.
State doesn't get excited until
It's
you're
very
over
acceptable.
I'm sorry, what did Tim say?
The state doesn't get nervous about you being, with your water loss until it's over 15%.
Thank you.
Additional questions for Larry or staff? Hearing none, roll call please.
Kelly? Yes. Betty?
Yes.
Blaine?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Emo?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Item C, rural water district number 6, wholesale rate.
The wholesale rate is based upon a percentage of the residential and commercial rate. So when there's an increase in the city rates, we're looking at the same percentage increase in the wholesale rate, which is just 10 cents per gallon. But per 1,000 gallons, I'm 10 cents per 1,000 gallons.
Is there, can I get a motion first?
I'll make a motion that we approve the rural water district number 6 wholesale rate.
Second. Sorry, Larry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right.
I got you going before then.
It figures out to a 9.1% increase.
Which equates to the same with what the city rates are.
Right. City rate went up about 9.1%. So.
Further discussion on the rural water district number 6 wholesale rate? Does that need to state specifically in there in the motion what the rate is?
I would say yes.
And that rate is 120 per 1,000 gallons?
Yes.
Motioner, is that right?
Yes.
Second?
Yes.
So the motion on the table is to increase the rural water district number 6 wholesale rate to $1.20 per 1,000 gallons.
That need to be effective November.
Effective with the November 20, what is the?
Effective with the bills due January 1st, 2016.
Okay.
Yes.
David, you understand that?
Yes.
26 effective date. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Item E, fire hose.
No.
D, jumping right through there. Item D, 7:30. So item D, let's go with Sunstream Conference Center stairwell carpet. have carpet, don't we?
Yes, yes, please.
And we have a bid. So is there a motion before we start?
Motion to approve,
How much and from who?
$2,900 from under tile to purchase and install carpet in front stairwell.
Has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Now, tell us all about it.
The front stairwell in the north foyer or the elevator foyer of the sunstone is not carpeted, it just is cement and paint splatters. So
The key there is paint splatter.
I try to clean them every day. But not only, it's used quite a bit by the guests now that we're utilizing that floor, I think a lot more than had been tried previously. And it's used by staff even more to take equipment and supplies, food up and down. So I think it would just, A, look nicer and B, be safer in case it would get wet when we're moving things around. I think the safety would be important.
Okay. Are there questions about you've had an opportunity to look at the bids and that, any question about the $2,900 from rear tile purchase?
Yeah, their bid from Ritter Tile for the $2,900 is far from detailed. I mean, they pretty much just talk about carpet. The other people talk about some railings and rods and some other stuff. Are these Ritter people actually going to do everything that you need done on that, or are they just going to do what's in their quote?
I believe on number one on the rear tile, I think it's just a difference in doing business. I think that Sunflower Carpet, which is the second quote, listed out line item by line item, whereas rear tile gave it more as a package price.
So they are going to have like the rods and stuff
From my
holding on to.
From my understanding, each landing, there's a landing at the top, the stairs, and then the stairs turn, and then there's a landing at the bottom. So from my understanding, everything will be carpeted, and then there will be treads on the stairs, is my understanding.
We've had some trouble in the past putting a roof on the golf course and other things like that where we were trying to compare two different estimates that were not listing out the same things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether we should be questioning this more, but I don't think you can just assume that they're going to do those things. Myself. Someone else can enter there.
In all honesty, if they gave you verbally, they said they were gonna install the rods and everything too, that's fine with me, you know? I mean, I take a verbal guarantee that's doing business, but did they talk
What
to
are the
them
rods
about
you're
that?
referring to, Neil? Is that the cove base?
Down here where it says on, well, you gotta look at the sunflower, install
Yeah.
stair rod, oh, sorry, treads. My bad, okay, so we don't have any rods.
Yeah.
And the bases and everything, yeah, okay. And they have treads up there, don't they?
The thing that Sunflower does do is looks at actually the carpet brand, style, and product number, as opposed to a loose, they'll use the same, used in the east stairway. That's one obviously was already done.
Greg
So
may have
they-
some answers for some of that, so.
We have the spec for what the east stairway is, so we can tell them brand, color, everything from numbers, not from.
And I have an email trail that I pointed out the exact, from the manufacturer website, so.
Great, thanks.
So in reality, we're talking $2,900 versus $35. Same product, same, is it, okay?
Well, I'm a little concerned over the fact they do mention treads in their other proposals, but not one.
Yeah. Part of the reason why I question this is, I mentioned this, and they didn't have anything good to say about Ritter Tile. That's opinion based, not.
Well, in that building.
All the other flooring looks good.
They're plus. I smile, I'm pleased with what they've done here.
Projects, commercial projects for years. So, yeah, I mean, I can't say anything bad about them.
I don't have a concern with Ritter. I do have a concern that it says install, Carpet One says install stair treads. And they're 35 head, and it takes 38 to get stair treads.
Are you looking on the Ritter tile?
I am now.
The number 2 is what you're looking at. I believe that was for the like vinyl circular tile flooring rather than carpet.
Okay.
I think that's the difference in 1 and 2.
It does say vinyl tile.
Yeah.
Number 3 says porcelain tile.
I think we brought up enough questions that I don't want to defer because it needs it bad, there's no doubt about it. But I'd like to make sure that 2,900 does include what's included in sunflower carpets, stair treads, and those kind of things. So, I'm sorry?
Yeah, specifically the treads, it is kind of.
Tread seems to be the one. I mean, carpet, we know what the carpet's gonna be, we know they're gonna glue it. You know, the edges of it, where it wraps over, I think is where the wear points are. If it's not a tread, then it's gonna be an issue.
When the specifications were sent out, did it specify the treads on there? Do you know?
No, this proposal from Rivers was collected before I started here. And I recently contacted them to make sure it was still good and that price was still good.
February 15 quote.
Yeah, so I have contacted them to make sure that the prices haven't gone up. I worked with Sunflower Carpet. I'm not a carpet expert, so I probably don't know all the questions to ask specifically. But I do know that the stairs, the back stairwell doesn't have treads. And it doesn't seem to be a problem for that.
Well, I guess I agree. I just want to make sure that the two companies that we're talking about here are bidding on the same end product, so that we're not going with one and they're leaving some pieces out of it.
Well,
So I
yeah.
just need some more specifications. or
We don't think of the
assurance.
back stairs though as being the same function really as the front ones, that will have more trade traffic, I guess you could say.
I think that it would be easy from, I guess, perspective to get that, but personally, I don't think so. I think that they both probably get equal use. Staff use, I mean, I run those stairs 100 times in a night at least. So I think that they both get pretty equal wear and use. But I'm happy to go back and collect more information.
Do you feel like you can ask all the questions that we're kind of coming up with here?
I'll make sure I have it right before I do.
Let me ask this, what was the potential install date after approval time?
From Reuters. He told me that it would for sure be close to right after Thanksgiving. With that said, I know that they're doing a project at the hospital, I believe, and it's he was telling me that it's like they have to do 2 days and then wait a couple days for it to dry. So there's a possibility that he could sneak this in on their little waiting period while working on other projects. But he was guaranteeing it shortly after Thanksgiving.
So we're not looking for a Tony's Fest.
Oh,
Well, I think that was referenced somewhere.
No.
that would be an ideal.
Okay. That came from your Friday report, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my dream world, I guess.
That hurts a string.
So I should go back and collect.
Council's desire, we can take this up on the 19th if we think we can wait till then for more.
I think we should, personally.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's concerns that one might be underbid and one might be overbid because I thought they maybe were the trees were needed or whatever we're looking at.
There is a motion on the table, you could table it.
Motion to table it? Make a motion to table this until the next council meeting on the 19th.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to table, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, thank you. Pretty good at tabling, yes. Now we can look at E, fire hose. Chief or chief?
Chief and chief?
Another earthquake for yours.
It's an earthquake, you'll see it on the film.
Chief, do you have a recommendation before you tell us about it?
We'd like to purchase 6 50-foot hose at $165 from Wise Fire.
For a total of
$990.
Is that a motion from somebody?
I'll make a motion that we purchase $990 worth of fire hose from Wise.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion, chief?
Question always is, where we're gonna get this money?
I think we're going to take it out of commodities on this particular.
That's what it says here on the.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Oh, I'm sorry,
And
yes.
the reason for the extra hose is,
Well, after we got our ISO,
what is the ISO?
it's the rating that we have for insurance.
Insurance services organization, they come in and provide ratings for insurance purposes.
Just to make sure public knows.
Thank you, Barry.
You're welcome.
He's trying to leave.
No, I'm just backing up. The experts stand.
That when the fire department backs up, it should be the police.
So with an ISO, they're saying we need 2.5, we need this much more 2.5-inch hose to meet an ISO or keep our ISO rating that we have today.
Well, we have to have so many points to maintain our ISO level. And there's a list of things that we need to do to get those points, and this is one of the items. I'm not saying that it will guarantee reaching that level, but it's one of the steps.
And by keeping a low ISO rating, I understand it helps with insurance rates here in town.
That's correct.
A lot of times mainly on the commercial, but residential also.
Most no.
No,
Most commercial.
No residential.
No residential.
Chief, you said it was one of several items on the list. Does that mean that there will be more requests forthcoming for this same purpose to help maintain ISO rating?
It's possible.
It's pretty political, isn't it?
That was 2.
Are there other questions, chief or chief, on the hose purchase? Is this just bought and put on the shelf and think we have it?
Some of them go on the truck, some of them go on the shelf.
No.
All go on the truck?
Let the chief
Explain this a little bit. To have a complete engine rating, you have to have 1,200 feet of 2.5 or bigger hose on there. The city trucks do have that. A rescue truck does not. For the city to take credit for having another engine, we need to add some hose to the rescue truck. My plan is right now, I have 6 lengths of new hose on the rack already. Buy 6 more, put them on city trucks, take the old hose and put on the rescue truck. So we can take full credit of the rescue for an engine. Have 3 engines in the city.
Okay.
So eventually it goes on the truck.
Teamwork.
This isn't, this, so we're just short, it's not the fact that those get damaged or lost.
No. We did hose tests on the city trucks, we lost 1 inch and 3/4, which is a test, but they're already replaced test. The rural truck just did not have enough hose package on there.
Okay. Other questions? Roll call, please.
Becky? Yes. Eagle?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
Betty? Yes. Kelly? Yes.
Thank you, Chief and Chief. Item F, Streets Department, skid steer. This, everybody had a chance to read this?
recommendation?
Our recommendation is to make a motion to trade in the existing Bobcat S590 skid steer loader for a new S590 at a cost of $1,200.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, that would be with Bobcat or Salon, is that correct? Yes, sir. Further questions of Tim, reference to our skid steer program that we have set up with them?
This is one of those things that seemed too good to be true when it first came to us how many years ago?
Probably about 5 now.
And it's really worked out very well.
Extremely well.
It does seem too good to be true.
I thought that when I read this, you can't always, well, this doesn't really make clear sense to me.
You're essentially getting a new skid steer for the price of a extended
Three
warranty.
tires. Price of 3 tires. The price of 3 tires.
We do this with bought parts with tractors and skid loaders as well. So it's a good deal.
All right, any further questions of Tim? Roll call, please.
Kelly? Yes. Eddie? Yes. Blaine?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes?
David?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Becky? Yes.
Motion passed. We're moving on now to the wastewater department skid steer. Tim, I assume your
Recommendation would be the same.
probably going to be the same, only it's an S650.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, I got it. Did you say it?
Oh, okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional questions on this one for an S650, $1,200 from Sled Bobcat?
Why was the item budgeted for $2,400?
Depends on whether we're gonna, we always budget tires, sometimes we need to buy them and sometimes we don't, it just depends on where we add the year. Because we have to, we're responsible for the buckets and the tires on each new machine.
I
So
see.
we may still come back before the end of the year and want tires. but right now we don't.
Thank you.
Roll call, please. Thank you, Tim.
Becky?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Blaine?
Yes.
Eddie? Yes. Kelly? Yes.
Motion carried. Item H, billboard renewal. Sherry, what's your recommendation here?
Recommend that we approve the rewrap and continuation of the contract with George Lake Signs for a billboard located on north side of I-135.
Cost?
This year's cost, which you can encumber, $1,025, that's 3 months or 2 months of rent and a rewrap charge.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, please. Gary?
Gary, this is the one that just gets beaten by the south sun, the sun climate, is that the right one?
It was blown over a couple of years ago, yes.
But I mean,
The wrap itself gets a lot of sun.
It just fades
faded.
out, and isn't that, in my opinion, the right one?
Actually, no, the other one faded out
Okay.
oddly. This one,
It's not,
yeah,
okay.
but it was kind of destroyed when you, but they fixed it. I mean, it was a windstorm. So yeah, I think it actually does catch a little more wind, but it's a beautiful setting as you.
Up on the tree.
Yeah, it's ordered.
See it often, so. Further discussion?
How long have we had this contract with them? Several years, isn't that right?
Yes, 2009.
I guess it doesn't matter, but it seems odd that they request prepayment with a new contract for 2 months in advance.
No, I was just encumbered with money.
Oh, I see, I'm sorry, okay, thank you.
Good questions. Anything else for Gary tonight?
I'd like to add again that the billboard campaign that we do currently have does bring people off the interstate into Lindsborg. I can vouch for that daily.
Good to hear from a businessman. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. I'm glad to know that, because I don't personally have any way of really knowing whether those things are effective or not.
Good. Roll call, please.
Kelly? Yes. Betty? Yes. Blaine?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes?
David?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Becky? Yes.
Thank you, Gary. Item H, or item I, since we just approved item H. Item I,
Greg, do you wish to address, or is Jerry?
Yes, that makes me.
Your name's on here, Jerry.
I
Just give me an
realize that it
opportunity
is, yes.
to address us other than by name.
I do the legwork to make the speeches.
We are, health insurance for the city employees is currently with Coventry or Preferred Health. We provide umbrella coverage and self-insure between the deductible and the high deductible program. It's a health reimbursement account set up. 2013, we renewed a month early to avoid the impacts of the Affordable Care Act. That also, by taking the action back then, we saved money and we became what's called a grandfathered policy. And grandfathered policy means that you are rated on the experience of your group and not on the age demographic. This year we were told we'd only have grandfather status for 1 year. We were able to get it for another year, and we can still get it for this coming year. We were looking at changing the health insurance program to control costs, but they said if we changed our program, we would lose our grandfathered status, and our increase based upon rated by age demographic would be between 40 and 78%, depending upon which program we went with. So we felt it was wise to stay and renew early again. And I would have to say from the self-insurance pool, it still continues to grow modestly, not like it did last year, just because last year we were putting more money into it. We scaled that back a little bit because of the experience that we had. We're also looking at, based upon the new premium increase, estimate, it'll be 7.5% on a per premium basis, per coverage basis, plus 5% dental coverage. Also recommending a 5.6% increase in employee contribution, which makes the annual total premium increase for the 2016 coverage year of only 3.658%. Last year we had a slight decrease. So to give you an idea, 2015, our total annual premium, and this is based upon current coverages, would be $330,360. For 2016, $342,444.
Well,
And with that, I'll open it up.
I guess, should I make a motion? Need a motion?
We didn't need the motion.
I'll make a motion that we renew the Coventry Health Insurance Program coverage and dental insurance coverage with a 5.6% increase in employee contribution to the health and dental coverage effective December 1, 2015.
Second.
I'll give a motion. Questions? Greg, does that give you needed a motion?
Yes.
Any questions about our health insurance proposal?
How long can we keep this going, this grandfather thing?
Well, we were told that this coming year will be our last year, but we've been told that before. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it's one of the things that we will be doing is getting the employee committee together soon, within this year, start looking at options. I mean, we need to start planning for when we start being rated on age demographic and how we're going to handle it. And we've already, when I say we, I should paraphrase it, with not the employee committee, but Jerry and I have already looked at like health savings accounts and how we possibly might set something like that up to help control costs. But we will have to be looking at options in the future.
Additional questions? Roll call, please.
Becky? Yes. Emo?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Cory?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
Eddie? Yes. Kelly? Yes.
Motion carried. Item J, Christmas banners. Well, enough said about those.
I think those.
There's gonna be some, it'll be Christmas, so.
There was a request last meeting to put this on the agenda for discussion, and I'll turn it over to the requester.
Well, I think my question is, the last 2 weeks ago was, I wasn't sure how the ownership of those have been handled in the past, and who purchases them, who installs them, who takes them down, who stores them. That was my biggest question at that time.
Have all those been answered in the past 2 weeks for you?
Yeah, slowly usually does. I did not understand that.
We'll help you take them down.
Well, just to
Okay, what you did about
if I understand correctly, someone else will purchase them, but from that point on, it'll be the city's responsibility to put them up and remove them and store them. Is that correct, or is that incorrect?
Well, the storage was a concern because they're usually vinyl and they're stored in the city public works, and I don't know where they're stored. So it
Upstairs,
can
that's really hot in the summer.
be really hot, be really cold, and that's not good on the things that are adhered to the vinyl backing. So that's an issue, what to do with those. And since these will be newly purchased, we're gonna have to know that, so we know that we purchased the right thing. And I think, is right, they all have to be new. Is there-
For the down, for
The
this,
downtown,
yeah.
because they don't,
They don't fit.
they don't fit.
They are, the ones that are potentially be to be adjusted, as the other ones have all been adjusted.
I don't know, I don't think, I mean, there was a lot of
Blue sky.
extra material in the existing dollar horse banners. I don't think there is in the vinyl
Your design
Christmas banners.
covers pretty much the design. We're going to make a request, this comes out of that hawk, to tackle. And if they have some money to purchase a new, so we're in the process of doing that. But again, going to the storage issue.
Yeah, we don't have any climate control storage,
So there is no alternative.
different material. I mean, that's one option that.
How much room do they take up? Is that a lot? Put them in a box. How much room do they take up?
The problem is, when you stick the vinyl on top of each other, particularly in a hot environment, you get image transfer from one to the other.
There's no room in the basement, so. I haven't been down there for a long time.
No, between sports equipment and files, it's full.
So I guess maybe the recommendation would be to look at different materials.
I mean, vinyl's
This-
expensive.
The city's not being asked to purchase anything. They're being asked to care for and put up and take down. And so,
What I'm hearing, the initial is that we don't have a conditioned space, and so think about that when they do go forward and purchase, unless something does come along that we're not thinking of.
Weren't the ones that we had before with a spring or something, didn't you say?
They had-
Hold it taut.
They had a pipe and a kind of a spring or something at the bottom of the cover.
But the rest of the questions, in other words, if ad hoc would secure funding to purchase banners that fit the new flag standards on Main and Lincoln, they could be given to the city for installation, takedown, storage, all of those things. that once they were paid for, they could be donated to the city and become the property of the city. Is that,
I think the big caveat is the storage.
exactly, well, and that's why, and that's what I asked. If ad hoc secures funding to purchase banners and the banners are something other than vinyl, are all the other questions answered? So the only problem that exists is storage,
Tim,
not
when
installation.
they're stored over there, are they just like laid on a shelf? Are they stored hanging up?
I don't know who puts them away, but there's a few different places they might end up, sometimes they lose them.
Are they rolled up or are they flat?
No, they're usually laid flat on top of each other and thrown over a bench. So, you know, sometimes when we're switching between summer and Christmas, then, you know, it's only a couple of months or so, so we.
I just wonder if you could put something between them, that, so it would not.
Well, I'm gonna throw Greg under the bus, can't we store him in the basement here?
I know, you just had a conversation.
I was just down there today. Yes, you can. Plenty of space
I'm
in the
sorry.
floor. But, you know, I mean, I've also, those stored some things at People's Bank, and I don't know about First Bank, in their basement. But, I mean, we're not talking a huge amount of storage space.
No, not really.
If you're just talking about laying 18 banners like this.
I wondered about even a tackle, would they have,
I don't know.
you know, they, no.
Probably sell
I just-
8,000 at one time.
Except for the price.
$2.
But
On bag day. I think there's some great possibilities, what you just said, maybe the banks would help us out to do that, and as great members of the ad hoc committee.
They store all of the Apple stuff and People's Bank, there's a lot of stuff.
So what I'm hearing, Greg, if they find a location of acceptable storage, are we willing to continue what we have done in the past of putting them up and taking them down and getting them to the right people for storage?
Yes.
And what Merle was talking about earlier tonight was, there was a question as if we should decorate the trees and this year. And the consensus was, golly, now that we just put the electric things in there, yes, we should do that. But everybody was hoping that it can be done in a much better fashion, as he was talking about tonight. Yeah, right. And so that could, you know, entail more help from the city, depending upon what the plan is. And they're talking to some professional people that this is what they do, is professionally decorate Christmas things. So this is how you wrap a tree.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that they're going after, I think, right now, to
It bites, we lost so many of our trees.
you know. So but they're wanting to decorate large and small, so.
Which would be nice, having a nice.
You're talking about the trees along Main Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've answered the Christmas banner question, item J, unless there's further discussion on that. Item 10, there is no executive session unless somebody has something that we need to talk about. I'm going to go to item 11 of other. Asking for others.
I have just a question for Tim. Can we do that here?
Tim, will you take a question today?
Oh, not him?
Which Tim?
Yes, sir.
Which do?
No. The one who knows everything.
Thank you. We'll take that as a compliment, I think. So.
Apparently someone isn't here.
Wow. I'm asking the question about where we are on the street covering. I'm talking specifically now about North 2nd Street, where I talked to you and the group of people down there were asking about if there's any possibility of getting all of those holes covered up. And you told me that it would be chip covered.
Which we did.
We have done it?
Yes.
Boy, I drove down, okay, thank you very much.
If they want paving, then that's never been an approved road.
Yes,
per
I
se.
understand all that,
That would
but,
all have to go through petition.
yeah, okay, thank you very much.
And Dave, I knew the answer to that.
No, you didn't.
I have a question for the other Tim.
Yes, please. It's gonna be harder than the ISO question, so be ready. I think another question.
Has any progress been made on the recent burglaries that we've had and invasions of carports and so on?
We have collected evidence. We're in the process of identifying suspects, and past that, I don't really want to say too much more.
Okay. Good enough.
It's hard to get into that and really see who's doing what, isn't it?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thanks. Absolutely.
I was asked a question if the city has a program, or I guess they asked a program, to evaluate street lighting throughout the community. And if you have a dark area, is that something that it's up to the citizens to bring it forward, or does the city have a
We have a policy, Tim, street lighting policy, and where we put street lights.
We put them on corners.
You what?
We put them on corners only. There are some exceptions. They were all 40
You want
years
to
ago.
speak into the microphone so the television audience can hear?
Okay.
YouTube audience. Thank you.
The standard policy is they go on corners. There are a few exceptions out there that were all before my time. I don't think we ever put one in the street for long before I was here. I don't know why they were in certain places.
North Main is a concern. Wait.
That's a half mile long square.
Well, see, that's the thing, it's not, there's no corner. I mean, it's a long street, a long block, I guess you would say. On Main Street, yeah.
100 block.
No, not 100.
800.
900 block.
What 100 block? I should have said, what 100?
800.
8 all the way up there.
Get all the way, and there's a street light.
There used to be one there that was taken out. I don't know why.
There's never been a mid-block at 800, I know.
Wasn't there one between Kendall and Chris?
No, not when I was there.
Okay.
It's just dark.
You know, I don't have a set policy for that one. I guess if council directs me, I'll do something, but I don't want to set a precedent either. That's, our rights to construct that block.
Well, that's a really long.
Maybe we can establish a criteria of how far between lights
I guess
and
that.
make those exceptions. That's council's desire.
Any others? We directed that to staff. Harry? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to make a motion to adjourn.
Good, second. Moving in second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. See everybody this weekend.